Chapter 340. Hello, madam. Secretary Liang had mixed feelings when he said the first sentence. If madam asked him about the photo, how would he answer? Could it be that he felt something was wrong with CEO Qin recently? Or maybe it was nothing. It was just that the people in the same team had a good relationship. What the F*** CK CEO Qin had been alone since he was a kid. Except for those in the compound, who else had he been close to? When he was in high school, he had a group of people following him. At that time, CEO Qin didn't look like a third-generation soldier. He looked like the boss of the school. Now that he was in college, he looked like a CEO. There were many people who admired CEO Qin, but the one who was especially close to him was Fu Zhou. However, he could not rule out the possibility that it was a bond between brothers. He had to be honest. Secretary Liang calmed himself down and asked in a professional tone, "Madam, what can I do for you?" The beauty on the other side of the phone was a little depressed. "Liang. I am here. My son found you." Secretary Liang wanted to say that CEO Qin found me long ago, but madam only found out now. His eyes were full of tears. "Why didn't you tell me that Imo was talking to a boy? You made me so excited." Secretary Liang's heart skipped a beat. "You knew?" "Yes, I knew." The beauty sighed. "I told you, it's impossible for him to change. Help me keep an eye on him. See if there are any other girls in front of him. If there aren't any, create an opportunity for him to meet them." Secretary Liang wanted to say that he had changed, but no, as the CEO's assistant, he couldn't just guess. "Yes, madam. I have arranged it, but CEO Qin is not happy. For example, during this special training in Tokyo, he felt like he was about to be abandoned. Because of the Cali team, CEO Qin looked at him with coldness. Secretary Liang knew that was a warning. You can't go too far. The beauty thought about it and said, then you can pay attention to who he is close to. Guys are fine too, but don't let him be too cold. Secretary Liang opened his mouth. Guys are fine too. Brothers, of course. Mo can't sleep alone, so I heard that he found a good friend to keep him company. After saying that, the beauty bit her teeth. It doesn't seem like something he would do. It's weird. Secretary Liang, so, the president really slept with young Master Zhou last night. Those photos weren't taken randomly, right? Why did he feel even more exhausted? Alright, I'm going to join the crew. Let's keep up the catchphrase. Secretary Liang listened to the sound of the phone being hung up. What the hell was the slogan? Madam asked him to do this, and he couldn't refuse. It's not that I can't refuse, madam. But he couldn't refuse his boss. When Secretary Liang received this order, he would first report it to his boss. The boss smiled faintly and said, "That's good. You can train your undercover skills. By the way, your CEO Qin's anti-reconnaissance skills are very good. But you have to understand a mother's concern for her son. Go. In other words, my son will definitely find you, so you have to go too." Secretary Liang took a deep breath. He couldn't bear to look back on the past. He had to think carefully about how he was going to work from now on. First of all, Chapter 341. Because of the photo, the atmosphere among the Supreme Alliance members was a bit strange. Especially Feng Shang, his eyes were full of grievance. He wanted to sue the captain, but didn't want to see the lawsuit. Who hasn't seen the fighting video of Sakura Stream Squad? Qin Mo was the one who broke the atmosphere. Counting on Fu Zhou. The young man only knew how to smile evilly, which made people think of elegance. Although Yin Wuyao was no longer in this circle, he was a professional, so he would pay attention to this aspect. The ones who hadn't seen it were Shui Yaoyao, Feng Shang, and Fu Zhou. Everyone watch it again. Lin Feng is responsible for explaining. Qin Mo said and stood up. Let's go to the hotel conference hall. Such a hotel usually had a conference hall, but it was expensive. But since Secretary Liang was here, this kind of thing would definitely be arranged properly. All the members sat on both sides of the conference room, which was a very cool scene that could only be seen in movies. Yunhu skillfully turned on the computer, then plugged in the USB drive, and the picture was projected on the big screen in the conference room. The captain of Sakura Stream Squad, Yamaguchi. He used to fight with the captain, and he is best at close combat. According to the style of Sakura Stream Squad, he must be training urgently now. There are two other members. I am familiar with Lin Feng. This ranking match is 5v5, and Lin Feng and I will deal with these two. The most worth mentioning is him, Shuji. Everyone looked at the photo, and their eyes became sharp. It's him. Yes, it's the person we met in the training base yesterday. Yunhu's expression didn't change at all. He just joined Sakura Stream Squad this year, but he has already become an official member. The reason why Sakura Stream Squad is so murderous this time is because of him. This person is best at sneak attacks, and his character is full of hostility when he operates it. He is famous for being bloodthirsty, so in this team competition, we need to be wary of him jumping out of the grass and suddenly attacking us. Someone couldn't help saying, his hand speed shouldn't be as fast as Little Spade. The hero is not just about hand speed. Little Spade can indeed avoid his sneak attacks, but our speed is not as fast as him. This is 5v5 ranking. Yunhu put down the pen and reminded everyone of the most critical point. Here is the video of Shuji's sneak attack. Everyone watch it. Time is tight, and this is all we can collect. With that, Yunhu tapped open the video. The members of the Supreme Alliance watched helplessly as the two people who were attacking on the main road were suddenly frozen in place by a red shadow that jumped up from behind. Then, the red shadow moved back and forth 3 times, completing a double kill in an instant. Surprisingly, he was unscathed. Such a person would be very troublesome to deal with, whether it was attacking or defending a city. The Supreme Alliance members all looked at each other. They saw the same thing in each other's eyes. The conference room suddenly fell silent. There was only one thought in everyone's mind, and that was how they would deal with this person if they encountered him. Everyone knew that the friendly match the next day would be no less difficult than the national competition. Shui Yaoyao and Feng Shang were even more shocked. As two pure newbies, they finally felt what real sports was. Joining the Supreme Alliance was just the beginning. Chapter 342. It didn't matter, they would definitely win. They still had Spade Z. Thinking of this, Shui Yaoyao and Feng Shang looked at Fu Zhou together. Fu Zhou didn't laugh this time. She just looked at the video, thinking about something. At this time, Shui Yaoyao and Feng Shang didn't know that in order to protect Fu Zhou's eyes, Qin Mo didn't plan to let Fu Zhou play. After watching the video of Sakura Stream's game, the atmosphere of the whole team changed. It was a kind of change in the eyes, which could make people immerse in it unconsciously. When everyone started training, it was already too late. Fu Zhou's hands were a little itchy. In the beginning, she just sat there with a lollipop in her mouth. Later, her eyes began to involuntarily fall on the bright screen. Qin Mo sat far away from Fu Zhou, put out the cigarette between his fingers, stood up, and walked to the youngster. Look up. Apply the medicine. Qin Mo was indeed a good brother, even carrying eye drops with him. When Fu Zhou applied the medicine, she couldn't help but tilt her head to look at the screen. Qin Mo's fingers were still lifting the youngster's chin. Seeing him tilt his head, he didn't say anything. But Fu Jiu opened her mouth. She blinked her stung eye, and became blind in one eye. I'd better play tomorrow. I'm afraid I can't stop that Shuji without me. His hand speed was really fast, not just fast, but most importantly, you didn't know when he would come out. In the game, hiding in the grass could make you invisible. To deal with him, in addition to fast reaction and accurate positioning, the most important thing was to understand the way of sneak attack. Fu Jiu was a hacker. Compared with Shuji, she was better at camouflage attacks, so she could deal with what she was good at. Qin Mo's voice was very calm. I'm here, don't worry. Fu Jiu wanted to say something. Qin Mo raised his eyebrows. What? You don't believe me? Hearing that, Fu Jiu laughed. I believe you, then I'll cheer for you in the waiting area. When did it start? The two of them gradually became this close. In the beginning, they got along with each other with a smell of gunpowder. But now they both knew what each other was like. The trust of the strong didn't need to be said much. But Fu Jiu still felt a little regret. I thought I could fight with you, brother Mo. What a pity. When he said this, the young man was smiling. Qin Mo kept the eye drops and stuffed them into his trouser pocket. His other hand ruffled Fu Jiu's silver hair. Don't say, oh, it'll be more believable. This guy's words were so annoying. How did he manage to endure it? Was it because he was good-looking? Fu Jiu was indeed good-looking. She lifted her hand and placed it on Qin Mo's shoulder. Brother Mo, look at my serious eyes. I only saw the redness. Qin Mo frowned. It's not good to stay indoors all the time. I'll bring you out for a walk. Our goal is the National League. If your eyes are still like this, they will be affected. Fu Jiu really couldn't stay here. It hurt her eyes to look at the computer screen all the time. After hearing Qin Mo's words, Fu Jiu understood the gravity of the situation. She put on a plush black coat and followed Qin Mo out. This time, Secretary Liang didn't dare to follow anymore. The outdoor air in Tokyo was very fresh. In addition, because it was too cold, snow had already started to fall. Everything looked very beautiful. Chapter 343. But in the next second, Fu Jiu, who was about to walk forward, paused. The afternoon light shone on her body warmly. People were walking to and fro on the business street, and some were looking up. Some were exclaiming, some were laughing, and some were talking. Gosh, that must be our number one. The number one team in the whole server, my favorite Hoshino, he's so handsome. I even went to buy Hoshino's merchandise yesterday. I love him so much that I couldn't get a lot of things. Did you see that smile just now? My heart was trembling. That person was asking the girl standing next to Fu Jiu. Then he turned around and saw a silver-haired handsome young man who was no less handsome than Hoshino. He was stunned. Fu Jiu's eyes fell on the large LED screen on the business street. She was very familiar with that person. So familiar that she stopped abruptly. Of course, Qin Mo noticed that the young man didn't keep up. He turned around and saw that the young man was lifting his chin with his left hand in his pocket. His eyes were full of tenderness as he watched the scene on the screen. Tenderness? Not completely. There were too many other emotions. What kind of person could make someone stare at him like that? Qin Mo also saw that scene. Hoshino, an esports player who had emerged in the past 2 years, was extremely popular in Tokyo. The reason why he was liked by so many people was not only because of his achievements, but also because of his face, which was comparable to that of a movie star. Do you know him? This was Qin Mo's first question. Fu Jiu turned her head, and her silver hair fell down. How could that be? I just think he's handsome. Really? Chin Mo didn't continue this topic. Fu Jiu laughed. Actually, I know him, but he doesn't know me. I've watched his games, and the scene is good. Chin Mo looked at the young man again, and his voice was very calm. Got it. The Almighty said that he got it, but it seemed that he didn't believe her words. Fu Jiu also knew that her behavior was a bit obvious. It was only when Hoshino appeared that she stopped. But she didn't plan to do anything. In life, one had to look forward. Hoshino should be living a happy life now. That was enough to know. She didn't touch any of her bank accounts and bank cards because she wanted to cover up her identity. Once the matter here was settled, he would go and deal with the others. However, Fu Jiu didn't know that in the eyes of others, she had a different expression. Chin Mo looked at the youngster without any expression on his face. His fingers paused for a moment, and his long and narrow eyes seemed to have lost some of the warmth they should have. In the end, because they had walked too far, they had to take a bus back. Because of the roads, there was only public transportation. The Tokyo tram was heated and very clean. But as long as it was public transportation, there would be a lot of people. The scenery outside the car window kept changing. Fu Jiu felt a little squeezed. Chin Mo was even more unsuited for such an environment. Fu Jiu wondered if this was the Almighty's first time taking public transportation. She had been staring at that handsome and noble side profile for too long. An uncle came up and was about to bump into Fu Jiu. Chapter 344. Fu Jiu pressed her head against it. It smelled a lot better in an instant. Although the trams in Tokyo were clean. But there were many people, so it still smelled good. Now it was gone. Fu Jiu touched her nose and lifted her head. She found out that she and the Almighty were in such a position that she wanted to kiss him. Seriously, don't blame her for thinking too much. She had been teased by the Almighty recently. If Chin Mo knew what the young man was thinking, he would have laughed coldly. Who was teasing whom? There were people behind and people in front. Chin Mo was like a dead end. Fu Jiu didn't move back. She pressed her head against Chin Mo's. Finally, she found it interesting, so she used her fluffy head to push against him. In such an environment, the Almighty couldn't do anything to her. Chin Mo really couldn't do anything to the young man. He held the young man's back with one hand and grabbed the bracelet on the tram with the other. His face was extremely handsome. Who knew that the guy in his arms would be so naughty? After Fu Jiu bumped into him, she clearly heard the Almighty's sigh. She was amused and continued to push. Chin Mo lowered his eyes and looked at the head that was still trying hard in his arms. The little silver swirl on the top of her head made her look especially cute. He resisted the urge to throw the young man out of the tram like trash. He lowered his voice and said in a tone that sounded like an older brother educating his younger brother, "You've had enough, haven't you?" Fu Jiu smiled. She pressed against him and stopped. After being teased by the young man, Chin Mo's inexplicable discomfort dissipated a lot. Even the corners of his mouth lifted a little. He was a little crazy. Because the tram was too crowded. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with their current posture. It was just that. Fu Jiu's head was slightly below Chin Mo's shoulder. The silver-haired young man lowered his eyes, and the man looked like he was abstinent and domineering. Someone wanted to take a picture of this scene. However, at the next stop, the two got off. Chin Mo walked out first. It was a street with good air, but without that fluffy head in front of his chest, he felt a little uncomfortable. But even so, Chin Mo didn't forget the young man's gaze when he stood under the building and looked up at the screen. They should know each other, it was impossible not to know from that gaze. But according to the information he got, the young man didn't have any interaction with Hoshino. That's right. Chi Nemo had investigated Fujio. At the very beginning. Just how early was it? As early as the first time Coco pointed at the computer and showed him a beautiful character in the game. Spade Z. The letter Z at the end successfully caught his attention. Z0. The technique was very similar, and it matched with his understanding of Z back then. His suspicions grew even stronger when he found out that Spade Z was capable of cyber attacks. But when he found out that Spade Z was Fujio, that layer of suspicion completely faded away. Even though he did not know what Zero looked like, he was sure it was a woman. Chi Nemo tilted his head and glanced at the youngster beside him. And Fujio, the rich playboy who used to pester him to be his sugar daddy, was unlikely to be Zero. But Chi Nemo didn't let go of any possibility. He sent someone to investigate where Fujio was on the day of the attack at the 5th Avenue 3 years ago. The arena wasn't big, but it could accommodate dozens of people. There were still a lot of Sakura Stream fans, and that side was full of spectators. In contrast, the audience on the opposite side of Sakura Stream School was calm and somewhat desolate. In Tokyo, it was not uncommon for people to fly from one city to another for their favorite esports players. From this, it could be seen that the other party's strength was nothing much. He didn't even have a die-hard fan. However, they did not know. The reason why there was no one here was because Supreme Alliance had always done things this way. In Manager Feng's words, every time their almighty Qin showed his face, he had to pay by the second. How could he let anyone come in to watch and film? Chapter 346. The closer it was to the national competition, the more secretive their tactics were, the better it was for them. So Manager Feng simply hid the Supreme Alliance's movements. Even though the whole nation knew that the Supreme Alliance was in Tokyo, they didn't know where they were playing. TSK, so miserable. That reporter couldn't help but shake his head again. He thought it was a good topic, so he took a picture of the audience with only 1 or 2 people. Only by comparison can we show the strength of our Tokyo. Just as he was saying this, he heard a noise from the opposite side. Under the light and shadow, 13 people walked out neatly. Each of them was wearing the same uniform, a dark black coat with a circle of pure white fox fur, similar to a cloak, which made them look like knights that only appeared in comics. Which team's uniform looked like this? Wasn't it too extravagant? Extravagant. Was money a problem for the Supreme Alliance? Of course not. Manager Feng smiled like a fox, the kind that hid a knife in his smile. Chi Nemo took the lead, Fujio stood on his left, and Yunhu stood on his right. Everyone had their own unique style, which immediately formed a handsome and threatening scenery. Especially Fujio's silver hair, which was simply eye-catching, not to mention the lollipop in her thin lips. The 2 reporters on the opposite side didn't expect that the people of this team would have such an aura. Especially the one who took the lead, so noble and domineering, with an indescribable sense of shock. So handsome. Is this the weak team from Huaxia? They look pretty good. Maybe it's just their good-looking faces. But they are too good-looking. People like them can be stars. No matter how good-looking they are, they will be destroyed today. Boys and girls had different ways of thinking. In the esports arena, what was the use of being good-looking? Good skills were the real handsome ones. Shuji, who was standing over there, also saw Fujio. He immediately turned his head, gave her a thumbs up, and then slowly fell down. This action of his caused a commotion among the audience. Sakura Stream. Victory. Sakura Stream, victory. Amidst the loud cheers, Fujio looked at his actions. He had one hand in his pocket, and his handsome face didn't look annoyed. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up a little, looking like he didn't care at all. The youth's arrogant attitude was even more infuriating. Shuji narrowed his eyes, pointed at Fujio, and said to Yamaguchi, "Captain, I'll keep an eye on him." Yamaguchi didn't know about the conflict between them yesterday, so he was a little surprised by Shuji's request. "Okay, but remember, the person we're going to deal with this time is Chin-mo. Isn't it the one with the hand injury?" Shuji didn't take it seriously. "I'll leave him to you, Captain. I'll kill them after I'm done with that guy." Yamaguchi frowned. "Shuji, Supreme Alliance is different from the teams we met before. Don't underestimate them." Chapter 347. Shuji seems to be fiercer than usual today. This is going to be interesting. When Shuji fights, even 4 people can't stop him. Is Shuji going to go on a killing spree? I'm looking forward to it. The passion of the fans was irresistible. In the midst of such cheers, Manager Feng shook hands with the manager of the other team with the same smile. "Shall we start?" The manager of Sakura Stream Team wanted to say a few more words to show off their achievements, or at least to finish the small talk. But after hearing Feng Yi's words, he swallowed his words to show his generosity. "Let's start." It was not an official competition, so there were no 1v1 or duo matches. There was only a 5v5 siege match. But even if it was a friendly match, it still followed the international esports rules. In the wild game of Hero, everyone could die an unlimited number of times and come back to the city to be resurrected. But in a real esports competition, everyone could only die 3 times. After the 3rd time, they had to leave the computer. Obviously, the focus of the so-called siege matches was to attack the city. As long as the opponent's city was destroyed, they would win. This was also the difference between Hero and other games, as it paid great attention to the cooperation of the team. Shuji couldn't sit still anymore. He put on the black wristband and stood up. His eyes were fixed on Fujio. But Fujio just laughed and leaned back with a lollipop in her mouth, looking really handsome and annoying. According to Shuji's temper, he got angry immediately. "Little Spade, what are you doing? Why are you staring at him?" Lin Feng wanted to make fun of her before going on stage. Unexpectedly, Fujio said seriously, "This guy is impetuous, so provoking him will help us. If you want to provoke him, don't do it here. Let's go on stage." Lin Feng was about to pull Fujio up. But at this time, Qin Mo's calm voice came over, "He won't go on stage." "What?" Not only Lin Feng, but also Yin Weao, who was next to him, was shocked. "Little Captain won't go on stage. Little Captain is so good at fighting, he won't go on stage. Are you kidding me? His eyes are inflamed, so he'd better not play games for 3 days." Qin Mo's face was still as elegant as ever. However, that invisible pressure never disappeared. Lin Feng and Yin Weao couldn't help but worry. If Spadesy wasn't there, their attack, Yunhu was calm. "Captain, who's going to fight?" "You, me, Lin Feng, Yin Weao." Qin Mo said, "Shui Yao Yao." Shui Yao Yao was stunned. Her. Could she do it? There were so many Supreme Alliance members here. She really didn't expect the Almighty to choose her. Qin Mo didn't say anything. She reached out her hand and touched Shui Yao Yao's head. "You're good at healing, so you'll be in charge of supporting the offense. Run back and forth in the wilderness and heal whoever you see dying. Don't worry, it'll be fine. With Brother Mo here, you have to believe that Almighty Qin chose you because he has faith in you." The corner of Lin Feng's mouth would twitch every time the youth said, "Oh." Qin Mo watched the youngster's actions. His eyes turned cold, but he didn't say anything. After the commentator and the referee were in position, Chi Nemo stood up indifferently, tilted his handsome chin, and bit the zipper of his jacket with his thin lips. He took off the jacket with his right hand and threw it to Fujio. "Let's go." Chapter 349. Under everyone's gaze. That handsome young man, who looked like a vampire aristocrat, walked up to Shuji with his hands in his pocket. He was so bloodthirsty and cold, like an avenger coming out of the darkness. "That Chinemo." Fujio tilted her head, and her eyes were cold. "How dare you call my brother that?" Shuji wasn't annoyed, but felt his blood boiling. "It's hot, isn't it? If it's hot, do it yourself." "Do it myself." Fujio paused and curled up her lips. "I won't. To be honest, I've met a lot of people like you. Why should I compete with you just because you want me to? Is the Sakura Stream team a bandit, forcing others to compete?" Feng Shang. "Idol, believe me, no one looks more like a bandit than you right now." Fujio said this in a Tokyo accent, and the crowd burst into an uproar. The opponent's agent hurried over and said, "No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. Can't you guys just shut up and compete properly?" Fujio was a very protective person, and in her mind, the Almighty was the only one who had made her suffer. If the opponent said bad things about the Almighty, it would be like asking for death. Chi Nemo didn't expect that the young man would have such a big reaction, although the timing wasn't right. But looking at the young man's fierce look, he was in a good mood for no reason. He walked over and rubbed the young man's head. "Okay, go back. Remember, don't rub your eyes." "Fujio, how did the Almighty do it?" He didn't forget to warn her at this time. Shuji was so angry that his chest was churning. Now there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to destroy the opponent and make the young man regret what he said just now. Thinking of this, he turned his head and was the first to sit in front of the computer. He pulled his fingers and put on the pure black headphones. The agent finally let out a sigh of relief. After all, he couldn't control Shuji. The teammates of Sakura Stream Team didn't say anything. They knew what kind of player Shuji was. The opponent thought that Shuji was impatient and wanted to irritate him, but they didn't know that the angrier he was, the more brutal he would be when he killed someone. Compared to Shuji's murderous look, Almighty Chin was casual and noble. His slender fingers slid over the headphones, and he held the mouse in a very beautiful gesture. It made people feel like he wasn't holding a mouse, but a chess piece. In front of him was a chessboard. The young master was like jade. He didn't expect to see such inviolable people in modern times. This was the first thought that came to the minds of the audience. His second thought was, of course, to let Shuji kill them all as soon as possible. However, it was different from the people here. Among the two Supreme Alliance fans, one of them already felt like his blood was about to boil. 1 year. For a whole year, Almighty Chin hadn't played in a professional league like this. Although it was just a friendly match, only those who had played the game knew how exciting it was to be able to see it live. Crack. The game's music started playing. The scene officially entered. It was synchronized to the big screen in the arena. "He's here." The two reporters raised their cameras. Even the commentators did not know why, but this time, they felt nervous like never before. Not to mention Shui Yaoyao, who was sitting in front of the computer. She only felt that her palms were sweating. But her eyes were very firm. This was the first battle. This was the first battle she would prove herself in. "Attack." Chi Nemo said these words lightly, but with a different kind of power. Chapter 350. There were 3 ways to attack: left, center, and right. These 5 players, except for Shui Yaoyao, were all professionals. Not to mention the opponent's lineup. Cool. So fast. Sakura's stream team will win this round. Whether it was the 2 reporters or the fans in the audience, they all had the same opinion. After all, just from the screen, they knew that Sakura's stream team was not only fast, but also had 3 players in the middle lane. Seeing that they had almost reached the crystal tower, 3 or 4 strong attacks, the firepower was very fierce. Destroyed, the tower is going to be destroyed. But was it really destroyed? They saw a person suddenly accelerate and rush directly to this side. Originally, the 3 players of Sakura's stream team were not afraid. But they didn't expect that a stun came out of nowhere. The 3 players were collectively frozen. That person concentrated his energy, first killed one with a sweep, and finally turned back for a critical hit. Yunhu, double kill. My god. Who is this person, so powerful? The fans in the audience were a little stunned. However, other than Yunhu, no one else had seen the person who had used the fatal stun that had assisted him. The people of the Supreme Alliance finally breathed a sigh of relief. But even with a double kill, the situation was not optimistic. Because their bottom lane was attacked again. And Shuji, double kill. Double kill. Did that mean that Yin Wuyao and Lin Feng didn't stop him? They were all killed by Shuji. The people of the Supreme Alliance trembled, everyone became nervous, and even clenched their hands. However, almost in the next second, Shui Yaoyao only saw a line of words appear on the screen in front of her: "Our defense tower has been destroyed." Beautiful. The commentator couldn't help sighing in Tokyo dialect. It seems that Shuji's hand speed has become faster these days. His attack power is also amazing. This time, the people of the Supreme Alliance are in big trouble. Lin Feng didn't expect that he would die. His eyes were heavy, and he typed in the dialogue box, "After the sneak attack, he retreated very fast. Should we add another player to go down the bottom lane?" No need. The person who spoke was Qin Mo. Even though he was still fighting in front, no one expected him to have the time to reply. "Both of you, walk in tandem, stick close to the bushes." Lin Feng grunted in acknowledgement. After recovering his health in the center of the city, he and Yin Wuyao continued to attack the bottom lane. Xiao and Ren are gone. Strange, there's nothing in the bushes here either. At this moment, someone shouted. He's on the middle lane. Shuji was indeed in the middle lane. He approached Qin Mo on purpose, looking for a chance to sneak attack. How could Lin Feng let him have his way? He sped up and blocked with his sword before sweeping horizontally. Motherf **, I didn't hit it. The other party was too fast and good at fighting in the wild, just like the information said. Even if he and Yin Wuyao worked together, they would only be able to take out half of his health. When Shuji restarted, his HP was full. Then, he did another sweep. A rumbling sound rang out. Shuji, double kill. Another double kill. Everyone in Supreme Alliance paled. For lives, Lin Feng and Yin Wuyao had already died twice. If they died again, they would be asked to leave the field by the referee. That also meant that the 5v5 would become a 3v5, 3 against 5. It would be a tough fight. Chapter 351. Fortunately, their performance in the middle lane was good, and they took down 2 defense towers in a row. The next defense tower was the opponent's main city. However, it was obvious that Yunhu's HP was gone, and only a little bit of HP was left to support him. Any random person would be able to kill him in a second. If Yunhu died, they would lose 5 lives. It seems that the situation of the Supreme Alliance is not optimistic. TSK, I guess Shuji is not interested in this game. His opponents are too weak. I know, right? That reporter curled his lips and looked very disdainful. I don't know what the opponent's captain is doing. Does he really deserve to be the captain? He is not even as good as that guy named Yunhu. Didn't Shuji just say that his hand was injured? Another reporter was quite understanding. I don't think it's because of the injury. It's because he is too lousy. When the discussion outside the field started, Fujiu was still sitting in the same position, with her right hand behind her back and a lollipop in her mouth, but she didn't rub her eyes again. Feng Shang was anxious. He wished he could be on the field now, so he could help. At this time, Shuji had already started to attack the second defense tower on their right. Lin Feng was a little anxious and wanted to rush over. Then Qin Mo sent a message, "Don't go out of the tower, just defend." It meant that they shouldn't attack. Lin Feng and Yin Weiyao also knew that it was not suitable for them to attack now. But they were worried about one thing. What if Shuji attacks the captain from the side when he sees that we don't go out? Yunhu's status showed that he was still healing in the city. That meant that there were only two people under the defense tower in the middle lane, Shui Yaoyao and the captain. If Shuji went over, it would probably be another double kill. Let him come. 3 words. A tone that was not painful at all. Even Yin Weiyao, who had never played with Qin Mo in the league tournament, felt an indescribable passion rise in his heart when he saw that sentence. As for Lin Feng, his eyes, which had been filled with anxiety, gradually calmed down. After killing the monsters, he ran back to the defensive tower. At this time, Shui Yaoyao sent a kill and killed a member of Sakura Stream Squad. Seeing this, Shuji immediately changed his route and went to outflank Qin Mo. This time, the other party is probably going to be annihilated. That's right, there's no point in killing one person, there are still 2 people left in Sakura Stream. Yo, are they starting to run back? I've never seen such a cowardly captain. While the reporters were still talking, the 2 members of Sakura Stream Squad rushed towards Qin Mo. Shui Yaoyao stood under the defense tower, her hand holding the mouse tightly. She had the urge to turn around and run. Chapter 352. What on earth is the captain of the Supreme Alliance doing? He can't even beat a female player. How on earth did he become the captain? That's right. Female players all know how to kill people. They don't know anything except being chased. Isn't this just in line with the image of the Chinese people? Speaking of this, the audience burst into laughter. The 2 players of Sakura Stream Squad were in a killing frenzy, and they rushed forward recklessly. Yamaguchi was still on the left lane, and he was about to tell them not to go. But it was too late. The 2 players saw that Shuji was about to arrive, so they didn't have anything to be afraid of. They had to kill each other once. They are looking for death. These 4 were Fujiu's words. She had a faint smile on the corner of her mouth, but if you looked closely, you would find that it was full of bloodthirst. As soon as she finished her words, the 3 of them appeared behind Qin Mo. Shuji was behind the 2 players. The people in front of him launched 2 big moves at Qin Mo. According to logic, 2 killing 1 should be enough. But in that second, Qin Mo moved and avoided one of the attacks. When the other attack came, he had already entered the defense line. How could the people of Sakura Stream Squad miss such a good opportunity? Now in their minds, Qin Mo's skills were so bad that they couldn't be any worse. Probably because of his hand injury, his momentum was so weak that it was pitiful. Shuji didn't care about the opponent's reason. With such bad skills, how could he fight with him? He waved the mouse and sped up, ready to kill Qin Mo and Shui Yaoyao together. It was so aggressive. The fans of Sakura Stream Squad already felt that there was no suspense. It was absolutely a double kill. However, what they didn't expect was that Chin Mo, who they thought was very bad, actually turned a sword's shadow at this moment, and a huge wind rose around him. The bright light almost occupied the whole screen. The two players closest to him were instantly killed by his two back and forth movements, and they only had 1 drop of HP left. The two players of Sakura Stream Squad were stunned, and they wanted to run back immediately. At this time, Shui Yao Yao swept across with a big move, and with a bang, 2 kills. Shuji didn't retreat. He also saw that the captain of the Supreme Alliance could only sweep back and do nothing else. Although the sweep was quite accurate, it was useless against him. Shuji wielded the keyboard, manipulated his game character, and directly stabbed Chin Mo's face. Before the commentator could say anything, the fans shouted, "Is that person stupid? He ran so hard just now, and now he's sending himself to death." Shuji also narrowed his eyes, and the murderous intent in the corner of his mouth was obviously mocking, "Trash, go to hell." With his speed, no one could stop him. Unless it was that young man, there was still a possibility. Someone else. Heh, Shuji. Chapter 353. Fujio tilted her head, and with a lollipop in her mouth, she gently spat out 2 words. KO. Then. The people on the scene only heard a booming sound. Chin Mo turned his hand over, holding the mouse, and pressing the keys with his left hand. The long sword flashed and hit Shuji right in the middle. That kind of attack. Handsome, unruly, and invincible. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze, and they all felt an unprecedented shock from their eyes. What on earth was that? 3000 knife cutting. This is the real 3000 knife cutting. A fan of the Supreme Alliance stood up in the audience, and his voice was so loud that it almost shook people's eardrums, which showed how excited he was. 3000 knife cutting. What was that? People almost didn't believe that Shuji would die like this. However, the screen did show the logo of KO. They looked down and saw Chin Mo, who was sitting in front of the computer. That man was so handsome that he looked like he came out of a comic book. He wore headphones on his pure black hair, and the whole screen was filled with silver light. However, did he think that it was over? Not at all. The man's slender fingers held the mouse, and with a very handsome posture, he turned around and rushed straight. Only a booming sound. The last defense crystal tower in the middle lane of Sakura Stream Team was destroyed. This, the commentators couldn't come out. How could they explain it? Not only did he kill people, but he also went back to attack the city. The people of Sakura Stream Team suddenly fell into silence. In one team, there were 4 people in the state of resurrection. Except for Yamaguchi, who was on the road, he was still there. The other 3 players only felt that their arms were numb. What on earth was that? Yamaguchi's deep voice came over, 3000 knife cutting. Isn't 3000 knife cutting a unique skill? This was what everyone understood it to mean. They all knew that when the captain of the Supreme Alliance turned around to deal with them for the first time, he used this unique skill. 3000 silver lights flashed, they all saw it. But what was that later? This time, Yamaguchi not only lowered his voice, but also his eyes. For Chin Mo, 3000 knife cutting is not just a simple unique skill, but 3 goals he wants to achieve. Originally, there was no time to talk. But Yamaguchi couldn't rush to the middle lane. Rushing over was courting death. On the contrary, if he destroyed another tower here on the top lane, they still had hope to win. After listening to Yamaguchi's description, the 3 members of Sakura Stream were all stunned. 3 targets. What the captain meant was, that person had planned it from the very beginning. First, he would reduce the 2 of them to 1 drop of HP, then let his teammates kill them, then he would go and kill Shuji. His final goal was to attack their defense tower? What 3,000 knife cutting? It's just luck. Shuji was very unconvinced, and his eyes were gloomy. If I also had a teammate to heal me, I could also continuously cast spells and have a healer keep up with me. 3 targets. Then I will break his saber. After saying that, Shuji rushed out. 2 of the Sakura Stream members didn't believe that anyone could have such a precise plan. They waved their weapons and shouted, "I'll heal. I'll support you." The 3 of them set off together. Yamaguchi didn't have time to stop him. Chapter 354. He didn't trust Yamaguchi 100%. His commanding power was scattered, and he was arrogant and conceited. People who didn't know would think they had 2 captains now. Maybe this was the disadvantage of a rookie king. He was too arrogant, and the manager of Sakura Stream team didn't want to discipline him. The Almighty had probably noticed this from the start. That was why he attacked like this. But compared with provoking people, the Almighty was better. He knew that Shuji was easily agitated, but he killed him in the grass with the field battle that Shuji was good at. It could be seen that Shuji had lost all his judgment. As soon as he saw Chin Mo turn around and run, he immediately ordered, "Chase him." But they didn't notice that Yun who had resurrected at this time. Yin Wuyao and Lin Feng on the right side also began to quickly move to the center. All of a sudden, they formed an encirclement on the left and the front. Seeing that the people chasing in front of him were gone, Shuji realized something and wanted to retreat. But Yunhu and Shui Yaoyao had already rushed over. They had seen Yunhu's fierceness, so they used a big move. One of them immediately lost half of his HP. The 2 who had only died once thought that Lin Feng and Yin Weiyao didn't dare to fight close to them at this time, so they wanted to attack Yunhu and then retreat. But they didn't expect that the opponents didn't hesitate at all. They directly rushed over and stood in front of Yunhu, and then used a big move. KO. 2 members of Sakura Stream team died instantly. Shuji was the first to notice the danger, so he directly jumped into the grass without saying anything. He wanted to ambush there, and when Lin Feng and Yin Weiyao came over, he would give them a big move from the back. Because it was clear that Lin Feng and Yin Weiyao had lost HP, Yunhu went to kill their captain, so he was the most suitable person to guard here. But what Shuji didn't expect was that as soon as he squatted down, swoosh! His back was pierced through. It was just like when he had killed someone before. Someone had hidden in the bushes and slashed him with a knife. Who was it? Shuji's eyes were red. He moved his mouse and wanted to fight back. But it was useless. Chin Mo moved beautifully and fixed him with skills. Then he started to beat him up. Shuji had never been humiliated like this before. The people in the Sakura Stream audience didn't know what to say, and everyone covered their mouths. The 2 reporters were even more speechless. Those fans who said that it was in line with the style of Chinese people shut their mouths. His face hurt from the slap. But Feng Shang didn't understand. Idol, why didn't the Almighty use a critical strike and kill him directly? Why is he still beating him up bit by bit? Fu Jiu wasn't sure either. If it were her, she could just freeze and kill him directly, which would save a lot of time. However, very soon, they knew the answer. Chin Mo typed slowly, "Does it feel good to kill you like this?" Shuji, who had a little bit of HP left, might have had a chance to escape. With a bang, he stood up from his seat. He clenched his fists and looked over at Supreme Alliance with a dark gaze. Chin Mo took advantage of this gap and moved his mouse, KO. the enemy's entire team was annihilated. Fu Jiu looked at this scene and seriously compared herself with the Almighty. In comparison, the Almighty was more shameless. What was the name of her provocation just now? It was not as real as the Almighty's provocation. They had no choice but to believe it. At the same time, the most valuable member of the team appeared on the screen, Qin Mo. At this moment, some people were unconvinced. Even if the Huaxia team wins, shouldn't the MVP award be given to Shuji? He got 2 double kills. Even the captain of Supreme Alliance didn't kill many people. What right does he have to be the MVP? However, in the next second, these people automatically fell silent. This was because the opponent's battle record had also appeared on the screen. Chapter 356. 10 assists. When did this happen? Why didn't they notice it? And the whole Sakura Stream team only died 12 times in total. That was to say, 10 of them were related to Qin Mo. Is the data wrong? Some people didn't believe it at all. But one of the processes of the esports competition was that the most valuable players' fighting scene would be shown separately. People didn't know what was going on until Qin Mo's actions were enlarged on the screen. They didn't realize it until they saw it. At the beginning, half of the reason why Tiger Cloud could kill so quickly was because Qin Mo had stunned the opponent from behind, which fixed the members of Sakura Stream Squad on this side. Not to mention that Shui Yaoyao's first kill was also because of Qin Mo. People didn't see it before because Qin Mo's speed was too fast. Now, after being replayed, people realized how beautiful Qin Mo's operation was and how fast his hand speed was. Under the dazzling silver screen, technical movement, and every attack had a purpose. How well did he know each skill to be able to do this? The Supreme Alliance's captain, who they had been yelling about, only knew how to run away, had done so many things without them knowing. Another surprising thing was that he didn't die at all. And he never went back to the city. He only relied on the health bags along the way and Shui Yaoyao's healing to KO the whole team. The most valuable player that couldn't be refuted. Seeing such a result, everyone shut up. The expressions of the fans, who originally wanted to argue, were obviously frozen. Shuji lowered his head, clenched his hands, and pressed his thin lips into a line. But now he didn't have the right to be angry. The obvious gap was there. He did kill 4 times, but he didn't have a single assist. But what about the opponent? 10 times. Shuji had thought that the teenager was the best in the Supreme Alliance. Now it didn't seem so. That man didn't talk much from beginning to end. He just stood there, with a handsome and noble side profile. He thought he was just a soft-footed shrimp. He didn't even care about the captain's warning and just rushed forward. But Shuji's chest had never been so depressed. If he could do it again, he would never be like this. What he regretted the most was underestimating the man named Qin Mo. The 2 reporters were speechless. Amidst the great silence, the members of Supreme Alliance took off their headphones and stood up. Perhaps it was because they were wearing the same uniform. He always gave people the feeling that he could sweep away an army of 1,000. When Qin Mo was walking back, Fu Jiu was already standing there. Her left hand was in her pocket, and her right arm was raised high. She was smiling. Qin Mo extended his hand as well. There was a clap. The 2 of them clapped handsomely. Such a scene would only make one's blood boil. Those who saw it would never be able to feel that kind of shock as those who experienced it personally. Shui Yaoyao's palms were still sweating. A lot of people said that Almighty Qin's mechanics were amazing, but she didn't feel much about it. After all, she was a girl and couldn't understand it. Even when she played games in the past, she only felt that Almighty Chin's mechanics were amazing. But now, her heart was beating. He couldn't suppress his throbbing for a long time. Everything stemmed from personal experience. Almighty Chin's every assist, every move, every defense, and every kill. Only she could see it clearly. So much so that after the game was over, her fingers were trembling. Not because of timidity, not because of her previous inferiority complex. But, she had a firm belief. She wanted to stay in the Supreme Alliance, even if many people didn't think highly of this industry. Even if she would suffer all kinds of ridicule, she still wanted to stay. Even if she failed one day, she wouldn't regret having such a reckless youth. Compared with the solemn atmosphere of the Supreme Alliance, the atmosphere of Sakura's Dream Team was too stiff. The agent probably hadn't come back to his senses yet. In his mind, this was just a small game, and he could easily beat the opponent. But the result? If this kind of thing got out, he didn't know how much face he would lose. The agent got angry. He walked in front of Yamaguchi and growled, "How on earth did you become the captain? Or are you too old, and your hand speed can't keep up? If you can't be the captain, let Shuji be. Look at your own record, have you ever killed a person?" Yamaguchi didn't speak, but his face was too silent. When his hair fell down, no one could see his expression clearly. Fujio listened to the admonishment and subconsciously raised her eyebrows. Because it was too quiet around them, every word that the agent said was clearly heard by everyone. Feng Yi, who was also the agent, glanced over here. "You can't even beat a small team. Yamaguchi, I am now officially informing you that you are not suitable to be the captain of Sakura's Dream Team. I will report this to the club. If you insist on this, then I have to ask the manager to come forward and directly kick you out of Sakura's Dream Team. This is also for the development of the team. After all, you are too old to play anymore." Yamaguchi didn't want to give up. "I have already said that Shuji should be the captain, but you said that now is not the right time. Look at the final result, you can't even beat a small team." Hearing that, Yin Wuyao only felt that it was very familiar. Once upon a time, he was also treated like this. "You are so old, why are you still playing esports? Look at yourself, can you still make money?" He thought he had forgotten all about it. In fact, the pain hidden in the bottom of his heart would all come out as long as he mentioned it. Why couldn't he play esports when he was old? There were many reasons for losing a game. Shouldn't he think about how to become stronger? Yin Wuyao didn't dare to look back. He was afraid that if he looked back, he would see his past self. He understood something that no one else could understand. Yamaguchi, the player he respected very much, couldn't escape the fate of being abandoned like this, and he couldn't do anything about it. However, at this time, two voices rang in his ears at the same time. One was cold and indifferent, and the other was smiling evilly. "Are you sure he is the reason for losing?" It was the captain and the captain. Yin Wuyao jerked his head up and looked in their direction. Chapter 357. Fujio put her arm on Chin Mo's shoulder and said with a smile in her voice, "Since Sakura's Dream Team doesn't want their main force, Brother Mo, how about we poach him?" Chin Mo said faintly and looked at the agent, "How much is the price?" "Yamaguchi is a heavyweight player, so it shouldn't be low. You can ask for anything. If you can invite him, the Supreme Alliance will be very happy." This is directly talking about money. The agent really couldn't see how worthy Yamaguchi was to be poached. He opened his mouth wide and was stunned there. Yamaguchi was the most shocked. He raised his head and looked at his former opponent, and his eyes shook violently. It was not that he wasn't disappointed. In front of so many people. When the agent accused him, he had thought that the players he had coached would speak for him. But there was no one. The feeling of being abandoned was so obvious that he didn't even want to say a word. He could only say that the times were different. He still remembered when they used to compete, that group of old friends would look for reasons after they lost, and they would eat sushi and drink sake when they found the reason. But his old friends all left, and he didn't want to leave. He thought he could still play, and he wanted to stay because he liked this industry. It turned out that he was still too naive. Just when he thought he was going to be crushed by this sense of powerlessness. He didn't expect that the people who stood up for him were his opponent Chin Mo and the silver-haired teenager who Shuji said he would teach a lesson. Enough. That was enough. Yamaguchi stood up, as if a heavy responsibility had been removed from his body. Sorry, I refuse. I still want to have another fight with the Supreme Alliance, a serious fight. However, I will not stay in Sakura Stream Team. I will go to a better team, so that I can be worthy of you. When he said this, his eyes were bright. The more he respected his opponent, the more his attitude was like this. Chin Mo glanced at him and said only 4 words in a flat voice, "I'll wait for you." Then, he wanted to turn around. As for the reaction of the agent and players of Sakura Stream Team, he didn't care at all. Fujio was still laughing. She said softly, "If it weren't for Captain Yamaguchi, my brother Mo would have killed all of you in seconds. Bro, before you teach people a lesson, look at the results. Did you see the assists? Also, Captain Yamaguchi destroyed 2 of our defense towers on the way. If it wasn't for the fact that we had to return to defend against your men, our last defense tower would have been taken down by him. If you don't know anything, ask more. Don't make yourself look so ignorant." If Fujio didn't say it, Sakura Stream fans wouldn't know what was going on. Now that he heard the reason, he understood everything. There were quite a few old fans among them, and they immediately stood up. His eyes looked at Yamaguchi. "Lord Yamaguchi, we'll go wherever you go." It wasn't much, but it was enough to shake people's hearts. It was not only Yamaguchi who felt touched, but also Yin Wuyao. The reason why they were able to persevere until now was because of God. Apart from the fact that it was their dream, it was also because the people who supported them were still around. Although there was only a little bit of light. However, as long as these people were still around, they had the motivation to continue forward. And on Sakura Stream's side. Chapter 358. That agent didn't expect this situation. He said those words just to let Yamaguchi know his position, but now, looking at those condemnations from all directions. Especially when there were reporters standing in front of them, as if they wanted to write this scene into the news. He only felt that the sweat on his forehead was about to come out, and then he said softly, "Yamaguchi, you know, I don't mean that. It's just that the result this time is not good. Don't talk about leaving so easily. Your contract is still there, and it's not good for anyone." Obviously, the agent was telling Yamaguchi not to make trouble. But this time, Yamaguchi, who had always been patient, couldn't bear it anymore. "I will pay the liquidated damages, and from now on, I will have nothing to do with Sakura Stream Club." Fujio heard that and looked at Yamaguchi seriously. "Captain Yamaguchi, let my brother Mo pay. It doesn't matter if you don't join the Supreme Alliance. Our family is also a club. Within a year, we have sent countless esports elites to China, such as me. So you can consider joining me, and the treatment is..." Yamaguchi looked at the youngster. Before he finished his words, he was dragged away by Chin Mo by the back of his collar. That indifferent and noble voice could be heard faintly. "Countless esports elites. Such as you. Oh, besides you, who else is trained by the He clan? Yao Yao, Baby Fong, Uncle Ian, Brother Mo, you can't not see them." Fujio was dragged like that, still trying to move Yamaguchi. Captain Yamaguchi, you also saw that among the players who just played, there was Arhi clan army. I welcome you here at any time. Yamaguchi. I always feel that the youngster is not looking for people to join, but more like promoting a product. After listening to Fujo, he went straight to the point. 2 are self-taught, and 1 is a top-notch player. He just joined the He clan the day before the game. Have you trained him before? Fujo felt that the Almighty was tearing down her stage and not cooperating with her at all, which was really not good. So, she hooked up her lips and smiled. Even if it's only me, it's worth countless people. Little Fujo. Chi-Nemo let go of his hand and stopped. Fujo finally saved her collar. She tidied it up and didn't even look up. Brother Mo, is that your nickname for me? Hearing this, Chi-Nemo turned his head, his left hand empty, and he gently patted the youngster's face. If you don't shut up, I'm going to be even more intimate with you. He was threatening her again. Fujo felt that she couldn't live with this anymore. She was just about to go over and flirt with him. But she couldn't resist his next sentence. Your eyes are still a little red, where are the eye drops? It's in my pocket. Fujo felt that she was being too obedient. Perhaps it was because he was rarely taken care of. After all, at the beginning, when Captain chased after Spade Z, he really wanted to kill him. Who would have thought that things would turn out like this? Coco tilted his head and glanced at his captain, who was applying eye drops to Fujo's handsome face. He still felt that this world was a bit too fantastical. Usually, when 2 people with the same distinct personality and different personality, there would usually be conflicts. So, it was because heroes cherished heroes. After Coco gave himself a convincing excuse, he turned his head away. He was afraid that if he saw too much, he would overthink things. It was all the fault of those CP jokes on Weibo that were too realistic. She always gave him a sense of immersion. Chapter 360. The 2 of them didn't feel anything. It was just their personalities. Being with the right person, anything was easy, so they didn't feel like they were showing off their love. Fujo closed one eye, trying to avoid the stinging pain. Chi-Nemo casually turned the young man's face over. Don't hide. Fujo swore that this was the best time she had ever been urged when her eyes were inflamed. In fact, it was true. The redness in her left eye had disappeared, and only the corner of her eye was a little itchy. If it weren't for the eye drops, she wouldn't have felt the inflammation. Fujo looked very obedient after applying the medicine. After all, her looks and hair color were there. Lin Feng looked back and touched his chin. Did you notice that little Spade's skin is very good? It's different from ours. It looks very delicate up close. As he said this, Lin Feng wanted to poke Fujo's face. But before his fingertips could touch the young man, he was fixed on the spot by an indifferent gaze. That gaze was very oppressive. Lin Feng froze. He didn't offend the captain, did he? Why was the captain looking at him like that? Yunhu was smarter. He reached out and pulled Lin Feng's wrist back. Don't you want to drink your Coke? Drink. Lin Feng drank his Coke while looking at Fujo, who had her eyes closed. Still too tender, even more tender than a girl. Hearing this, Shui Yao Yao raised her head abruptly. Fujo closed her eyes and laughed evilly. Don't worry, Almighty Lin. As the beauty of the team, you are also very tender. That elongated "oh" made everyone in the team burst into laughter. Yeah, Lin Feng, you are still talking about little Spade. Look at yourself. You are so beautiful. Didn't the talent in your department write you a love letter? Take it out and have a look. F***ck off. That cataract, I don't look like a girl at all, damn it. Fujio interrupted. You look like a girl everywhere. Lin Feng. Captain, control little spade. Chi Nemo glanced at him and said indifferently, I don't care. Lin Feng was dumbfounded. Fujio smiled happily. Lin Feng decisively turned his head away. He couldn't PK in real life, so he would have to rely on external forces in the future. Fujio was originally quite obedient, but after being provoked by Lin Feng, she was more or less energized. She wanted to open her eyes and say something. Chi Nemo tilted his head when he saw the movement beside him. He reached out and put the youngster's hat on, his voice deep and pleasant. You want to mess around again, MMH? Fujio leaned back with the corners of her mouth curling up slightly. She looked like she was very obedient. Shui Yaoyao let out a sigh of relief. She was afraid that the topic would continue. His Highness Zhou's skin was really too good. Fortunately, there were quite a few boys like this in the school. After all, there were more gays now, and many guys had started to apply skincare products. But there was no one as handsome as Highness Zhou. They were all very feminine. Highness Zhou, on the other hand, was very handsome, especially when she had seen Highness Zhou fight with others. That kind of ruthlessness could more or less reduce people's suspicions of Highness Zhou. However, how long could this peace last? After returning to Rivertown, they would begin the National League. This meant that he would have to go to another city to participate in the regional competition in the 3 northeastern provinces. At that time, he would not be able to avoid staying in the same room as others. The others were fine, but if it was Almighty Qin. Chapter 362. It was a uniform sound. People in the airport couldn't help but look back. Because they were all girls with good manners, with youthful and firm eyes. It didn't make people feel noisy, but they wanted to stop and see what was going on. Among those fans, someone even smiled at Shui Yaoyao, waving a sign with the word Yao on it. Shui Yaoyao paused. So this was the feeling of being recognized. For too long, she had been called fat, poor, and eccentric. Even if she had dreams, the neighbors would only laugh at her. Originally, she would always be in that darkness. Now, Shui Yaoyao looked up at the tall and straight figure walking in front of her. Sunshine, Justice, are they finally coming? Of course, there would be people taking photos of Fujio and Qin Emo, especially when the two of them were walking together, and one of them was holding the other's collar. Weibo cried again because of their cuteness. Is the Almighty going to pack up Big Spade and bring him home? I really envy the girls at the scene. Isn't this scene too loving? When the people at the scene pass by, I just want to say, Big Spade is so handsome, and I will never say that Big Spade is the one on the bottom. Good attack, I'm about to be conquered. Come on, give me some blood. It was because of this popularity that couldn't be suppressed no matter how hard it was suppressed. The bad comments about Supreme Alliance were suppressed little by little. Manager Feng was in this line of work, so he knew when to release the right news. Some people who didn't understand the situation of the game and easily made assessments, such as how Supreme Alliance might not be able to enter the top 4 of the National League this time, weren't suitable for a team that had just won to listen to such unrealistic judgments. Supreme Alliance did have many problems. For example, the new team members hadn't gotten used to each other yet, and some of their adaptability hadn't been mastered yet. But these weren't problems for Feng Yi. The most precious thing for a growing team was to keep the original heart. And Feng Yi believed that as long as Supreme Alliance had Qin Mo, they would never lose. What's more, they had Spade Z now. Out of the airport, there was a special business car waiting for them. After all the players got in the car, the reporters arrived. What's going on? Lin Feng felt that something wasn't right here. Coco, who was still replying to messages, opened the Weibo he saw. I think it's because of these comments. Lin Feng took a look and raised his eyebrows. Are they all saying that we can't compare with Xiangnan? Yeah, probably because of this result. When Coco finished his sentence, everyone on the bus saw Xiangnan's numbers. The atmosphere suddenly became much quieter. Fujio leaned back and looked at Qin Imo. The Almighty's face didn't change at all. It was as if these things didn't affect him at all, 70%. They had been wanting to ask that question for a long time. What about the captain's severe mysophobia? Everything was fine after meeting Little Spade. He wouldn't even touch eye drops, let alone give them to others. If it was in the past, they would never have dared to imagine such a thing. But now, their captain was acting so naturally and elegantly. They really felt like they were in a state of confusion. However, after listening to Manager Feng's explanation today, they all understood. He doesn't leave any leeway in his actions. If an MMO player can't even handle such comments, then what's the point of playing MMO? Isn't it the same for all professions? If you're being criticized, then you just have to endure it. In fact, when Lioli said this, she was very clear in her heart. Some people's liking is too superficial. Chen Xiaodong had a disgusted look on his face. Fu Jiu picked up the teacup and took a sip. Nothing, just asking. Now that the He clan was developing so well, it was impossible for the other party to not make a move. She did not believe that her scum father still had any feelings for them. Even if Fu Zhongyi didn't make a move, Third would have probably blown pillow talk. Chen Xiaodong didn't mind at all. Who knows? It's been a few days and they haven't shown themselves. You didn't show your head. Fu Jiu raised her eyebrows. This wasn't the style of that 3, you're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.